Okay, we're back, and I'm immediately kind of nervous for people to see the thumbnail for the this third and final segment of the video because doing three segments, I kind of even honestly during the first one, I never really know what to do. When it gets to the third part, I have no idea what face to make of the camera. Do I look? Do I don't look? So over starting, I'm sure from week one and over the course of this semester, you'll probably catch me looking awkward in just about every photo. And yeah, it's actually pretty funny. I hope you I hope you enjoy it if you get to watch this after the fact, and that's your first impression of me for this segment. You must be so curious as to what's going to happen. And one last time before I jump into the final part of the segment of Rock Radio, just for all the Gales out there, that this Wednesday, October 9th, the Council of Greek Governance is going to present this year's Box City event, which will be hosted from 9 p.m. until 12 a.m. And after this time, the campus minister, Carly Brainerd, will be taking over the event, which will go on much later into the night. So if you'd like, you should probably come and check this out. It's for a really good cause to help end the stigma surrounding the homeless population of the world. It's a really good way to get involved on campus and just to do something good. And just kind of, it's what ION is all about. It's part of the mission statement, just moving the world in both big and little ways like that. So you should definitely go and check it out. And moving on from that, onto the final segment of this discussion of just bands and artists and whatnot that have really helped to reshape and remold my musical interest, because it's been a very positive evolution for me over the course of a few years. And I spent most of the show up until this point talking about just various different rock bands that have shaped my interest, but just like subgenres of rock that I was just that close-minded when I was younger that I wouldn't even want to entertain those notions. And we're all embarrassed by our younger selves, myself clearly not excluded, by this for this reasoning. But it's really not just rock music, and this is the part where, as I mentioned before, if I could go back in time and talk to my younger self, he would just stare at me all bewildered and wide-eyed. Is that I've had the great benefit of being around people who have kind of nudged me to listen to stuff that's not just straight up rock and roll music. And at first I was not really receptive at all, but thankfully I gave it time and wised up to the notion that it can be good music too. And I, above all other people, could probably thank my siblings the most for this, because they're not exactly the rock music fanatics that I am, but they are music fanatics just for different types of music. Taylor Swift far and away being their idol, first of all, and then various other pop artists, some that I've never even heard of, that every time I drive with them out to Hampton Bays or wherever it is we're going, my brother will whip out my phone and queue up 10 songs on Spotify, and my sister will do it too, from artists that I've never even heard of. But because of them, I pretty much know every single song in Taylor Swift's discography, because they play it nonstop every chance they get if we're driving. And that's not to say it's a bad thing and that I've gotten sick of it, because quite frankly, I haven't. Taylor Swift's a very talented individual. And even though some of her stuff, country-ish or new poppy or otherwise, doesn't always work for me, I probably I'm kind of grateful now for the overexposure to all of her music, because from more pop-oriented albums that she's put out, like 1989, or more recently Lover, a while ago, I would have just been very not receptive to that, and I would have just kind of plugged up my ears and been like, "It's not rock music, so it's not good." But thankfully, my siblings are persistent and don't care if I don't want to listen to it. And now we all get happy when they put that stuff on, because it's really good to listen to. It's a really different sound. It's very, or for me anyway, it's a different sound, because it used to be what I don't listen to at all. And it's not to say I'll seek it out and put it on all the time nowadays, but it's something I enjoy hearing. And if I need a change of pace from rock music, I'll put on some pop songs, Taylor Swift not excluded, and a bunch of other artists not excluded that my siblings have played, who honestly I probably don't remember the names of, but I've just been driving and I've heard a song that was really catchy. God, I even have a playlist on Spotify called Pop exclamation point, kind of like the U2 album, but then parentheses for when you need a rock break, because sometimes I do. And so I'm thankful to have siblings who are really into pop music and who have I don't want to say pushed me because it's never like they were actively trying to make me do it, but just kind of indirectly forced me to listen to it all the time. Because otherwise I wouldn't probably have given it a fair shake and I wouldn't be appreciative of it today. And them and one other person I owe that debt to is my good roommate and friend here at Iona, who, as I mentioned on last week's show, is in a band called Wilma that you should definitely check out on Spotify and Apple Music and wherever you listen to music. And another quick plug, like I did last week, they're playing a show at Gold Sounds Bar in Brooklyn on October 29th. That's a Tuesday. They're opening for Milk, who's it's pretty exciting, pretty big band. Wilma, my bias aside, is actually a very good band, and I think they're worth your time. So you should definitely check them out. They got a new single out last week, and yeah, it's their sound, which is this isn't no longer me just like promoting them as my friend's band and a band I think you should listen to, but it's important to my own story here. Their sound is very difficult to pinpoint, and my roommate and I will joke about this sometimes. If people ask what they sound like, indie pop is probably the best genre to lump them into and to describe them as. Hopefully my roommate's not listening, so if I say something inaccurate about their artistic visions, he won't scold me for it later. You can hear influences from like other similarly genred bands like the 1975 or Vampire Weekend or something like that. And that is just, as I'm sure you've picked up by now, listening to this entire show on all these different segments, that type of music decidedly was not my thing for a very long time. And in terms of, I wouldn't put it on par with like rock music or like any type of rock music, just like I wouldn't put like certain pop songs on par with that, because at the end of the day, this is still rock radio after all. But it was another situation where I just kind of had to have an open mind and be exposed to it a lot before I could actually really appreciate it for the good music that it was. And it was one of the first things I found out about him when I started living with him here at Iona, because that's a pretty interesting talking point to and it would also explain why one might be sitting at their computer working on music all the time. And so I listened to it, and up front was like, I never had a friend who had been in a band, let alone one making music at that such professional, like high sounding quality. So I was impressed by that, but at first it wasn't really my thing, and I didn't listen to it for a while. Then, just for the sake of the pure like curiosity of the fact that I'm living with somebody who's here making music for a living, and I think I owe it to myself and to him as a friend and roommate to dive a bit more deeply into that. So I listened some more, found certain songs that had stuff that I liked about them, and just it kind of coincided with, say, like hearing like a 1975 song in the dining hall that was like, oh, this is really catchy. I can hear that Wilma's like implementing maybe stuff they like from this band, or Vampire Weekend releasing a really good album, Father of the Bride, and just hearing like, oh, okay, this is what this genre is about. This is what this sound is about. And this is this really cool subset of music that Wilma can fall into. And this was certainly bolstered by having the opportunity to go see them perform at Gold Sounds Bar last semester in March, I think it was. Certainly helped along by they did a cover of I Want It That Way, because who doesn't love that song, and a cover of Come Together, which just blew the Beatles original version out of the water. And then I will absolutely stand by that statement, because I don't know if I've said this before, but not liking the Beatles is one of my musical hot takes. Maybe that'll come up more on another show. I really don't want to instigate the Beatles fans of the world, but Wilma's version of Come Together, you got to see it live. They might do it this time. You should feel incentivized to come out to Gold Sounds in October. It is October on the 29th. But that really kind of helped put me over the edge with them. Seeing it live was a whole different thing in such a small, intimate venue. Seeing somebody that I know up on stage pouring their heart out into this music that they've created, and it was really just, it was almost like knowing a celebrity for like a 45-minute set, because you're like, they're not just doing covers. They created this sound that's getting the crowd really into it, and it's fun to dance to. It's really upbeat. Sometimes it's more slow and meaningful, and just overall, it was really impressive to me that somebody, my age, or somebody that's going to school with me, or just in general, and somebody that I know could be doing this, because as much as I'd like to dream that I could be a famous musician one day with my um, probably mediocre guitar skills and lack of ability to write a song, it's just cool to see somebody actually being able to do that and being around somebody and seeing the inner workings of that world of people who do that as like a passion project and a dream and a hopeful career in the future. And so because of that show and then because of listenings to Wilma and their slow but steady stream of singles that are just always trying to find something new, some new sound, some new angle to take musically, but always kind of keeping true to what they're about. It really helped turn me on and make me more receptive to different types of music like that, because they're definitely not a rock and roll band, but they're a band that I could say I'm a fan of. And that's not just because I am personal friends with the frontman of the band, because I genuinely am impressed by the musical talent that's in there and the songs that they're making. And thanks to my roommate and my siblings and Wilma and all of that good stuff, and going to like a Jonas Brothers concert with my siblings over the summer, I have been made thankfully more open-minded, and not just in terms of the pop music. I'm very thankful to be open-minded about other types of subsets and subgenres of rock music now. And now I'm always just receptive to music recommendations, and I'm always looking to keep expanding, because it's a really good feeling when you find some new band to latch onto. And it's like a nexus that just kind of like spider webs out, and you can find different connections between bands and just kind of create your musical taste until before you know it, there's a million different genres in there and they're all interconnected. And at the center is you just being a exploratory music fan. And that's what's been happening to me for over the course of probably only very recently, maybe like 1 or 2 years, where I've really gotten into a deep dive with this stuff. And if you're looking for new music recommendations and you heard something that kind of caught your attention on the show, hopefully you'll check it out and you'll have the same good experiences that I had. And with that, that'll be the end of this episode of Rock Radio. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in. Thank you to everybody who will end up watching this after the fact on WOCR's YouTube channel. I do not know. I don't think I will be here next Monday because that's Columbus Day, and to the best of my knowledge, the station will be closed. So sorry, my devoted rock radio fans. You'll have to do without me maybe for 1 week. But I'll be back soon enough with more fun musical topics that probably I only really care about, and you guys are just listening because you want to see me. But it doesn't matter to me because you're still tuning in, and I still really appreciate it. And I look forward to being back to talk your ear off about music some more next time.